What's all this about a points deduction for Chelsea?
You ain't so tough with that bad boy talk. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, just when things are going really well, headlines talk about points deduction, Roman Abramovich era. What's going on? Well, The Guardian has written an article about Chelsea, about payments. Roman Abramovich making dodgy payments. Surely not! Yes, of course, we are going to jump into this article today, but before we do, I think the new ownership, Todd Boehly, Clearlake Capital, they came in, they were whiffed around the books and they went, there's some irregularities here, and Boehly and Co. obviously want to do everything by the book, make sure everything's kosher, and they've self-reported financial irregularities to the Premier League and the UEFA respectively. Of course, UEFA, they agreed a fine, I think it was like 8 million, and they were like, we're good boys, leave us alone. But apparently there is more historical stuff now surfacing regarding the Abramovich era with Chelsea. We're going to learn about it today in The Guardian's article. It's by Rob Davies and Simon Locke. We're going to go for all of it, I think, because it's not behind a paywall, so it's okay, and it's ethically fine for me to stroll on down through the article with you guys here on Football Therapy. I will, of course, give my natural, organic reaction to what's being said in this piece by Rob Davies and Simon Locke. So strap yourselves in, let's find out what's going on together with Chelsea and how we could face a potential points deduction. That's all sensationalism usually, but maybe? I don't know, we're going to find out. Thanks for joining me. If you want to support the content, you are welcome to, simply by liking and subscribing, and should you choose to subscribe, make sure you hit the bell notifications icon, turn all noties on. Yeah. Let's dive straight in. Chelsea FC face fresh questions over how former owner Abramovich funded the club's success after leaked files revealed a string of secret payments that may have breached strict football's rules, including those on financial fair play. Remember, Chelsea notoriously juiced the league when Abramovich joined. But then, Roman Abramovich was one of the first to be like, yeah, let's bring in the FFP. I think that was largely because by that point, Abu Dhabi bought Man City, and he was like, oh god, they're richer than me. Yeah, look, FFP, bring it on down. By then, Chelsea were already juiced up to a, Premier League superpower. Let's read on. Experts said the transactions uncovered for a joint investigation by The Guardian and internal partners could lead to the Premier League imposing punishments on Chelsea, such as a deduction of points. Ugh. There's your headlines. The files reveal a series of payments worth tens of millions of pounds over a decade, routed through offshore vehicles belonging to Abramovich. The transactions in questions appear to be of Chelsea's benefit, raising to questions on whether they declared in accounts submitted to football's governing bodies. Yeah, Roman Abramovich making payments to look, let's not be naive here. This wouldn't surprise too many people, but at the same time, you get this with a lot of clubs as well, especially like state-backed clubs. You try and get ahead making certain payments elsewhere, trying to not be found out. Let's read. Beneficiaries appear to include the agent of star player Eden Hazard, and an associate of title-winning manager Antonio Conte, and other Chelsea officials. Well, they worked out fine. Nice. Hey, look. If you're gonna BRIBE, I don't know, allegedly, if it works out like Conte joining and winning the Premier League, and then Hazard joining and being Chelsea's greatest player of the last 10, 15 years, money well spent, I'd say. I'm jesting. Everyone needs to obey by the rules. But also, so far, this is like agent fees. Again, rife in football, juicing up the agent fees. Everyone thinks, oh, look at Man City, they got Erling Haaland for 60 million quid and it's a snip. But when you break down the financial mechanisms of that deal and how much the agent fees were, it's a lot of money. Other players appear to have been connected to the purchase, Willian and Eto'o. Interesting. Well, Willian, we know, wanted to come to Chelsea, as the song dictates. The players have come to light thanks to an international investigation known as Cyprus Confidential, a cache of £3.6 million offshore records leaked to the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists and Germany's paper trail media. Wow, these are a lot of long words here, which shared access with The Guardian. Basically, these are the people who did this investigation. The Guardian, which is, of course, the paper we're reading off now, had access to it. Chelsea's finances are already being examined by the Premier League in an investigation that runs between 2012 and 2019. After the West London's club's new ownership regime voluntarily reported that, quote, incomplete financial information had been submitted. Like I said earlier, Chelsea self-reported to both the Premier League and UEFA about the irregularities from the previous ownership. Like, look guys, the guys who ran this place first, you know, it looks like they were mucking about. Because we're good boys, we're telling you. And it shows a graphic here of all the trophies we've won within that period. The Footballing Association confirmed to The Guardian that it's also investigating Chelsea, while UEFA, the governing body of European football, has already fined Chelsea for, here you go, 8.6 million over the admission, although its powers are limited because it can only go back 3 years with UEFA. That's the only period they can investigate. Yes, I said that at the top of the video. Chelsea self-reported to both Premier League and UEFA agreed to fine him 8.6 million, and Chelsea paid that and went, okay, bye. Probably signed something that says, leave us alone now. Right, off-book payments. Roman Abramovich bought Chelsea for £140 million in 2003 and quickly flooded the club with cash in a relentless push for success. The, quote, Roman Empire, as some fans dubbed it, only fell when Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine led to Abramovich being sanctioned, of course, forcing to sell. Well, he didn't sell, it got seized as an asset, didn't it? And that was sold separately. Files analysed by The Guardian and TBIJ as part of this Cyprus Confidential investigation shed light on apparently hidden payments linked to pivotal moments in his trophy-laden tenure. The material, which comes from a Cypriot offshore services called Merit Service, was shared with the ICIJ by the non-profit group Distributed Denial of Secrets. Distributed Denial of Secrets. That's something straight out of Harry Potter, surely. Anyway, on the 18th of July 2017, we were Premier League champions. I remember it well. The files show an Abramovich-owned company called Conibert Holdings, based within the British Virgin Isles, signed an agreement with Federico Pastorello, an Italian football agent. Look, man, I mean, there's this... Okay, let's read on. The Italian has been described as multiple reports being close to Conte, the former Chelsea manager, and has spoken about the manager's contract negotiations in the media. Conibar agreed to pay Pastorello 10 million quid for a 75% stake in this investment fund business. Okay, hold on. Yeah, the thing is with agents, man, they do get paid in funneled ways. I was thinking this was going to be a little bit more, I don't know, conventionally crooked. But let's read on. The same day, Chelsea announced that Conte, who had guided the club to a Premier League title, had signed a new £9.6 million a year contract. Pastorello declined to comment, funnily enough, on whether the two deals were linked and said, Antonio Conte is not our client. Yeah, probably not officially. Look, man, football is is one of the most bent things in the world, especially like the FA, the FIFA, and all this. There's documentaries on it. The way money gets passed around in football is just super crooked, generally. But let's find out the more stuff on Chelsea. So during Conte's title-winning season at Chelsea, Hazard scored 16 goals, a high point in a glittering 7-year spell that included him captaining the club and winning 7 domestic and European trophies. Yeah, he did well. Hazard joined Chelsea in 2012 for 35 million euros, 30 million quid. It's like we got a Kante for that. You look back at that now and think, wow, incredible business. In a marquee signing that followed fraught negotiations with player agent Biko Penek, who reportedly wanted a sizable commission around 6 million quid. Bearing in mind, at the time, everyone wanted Hazard. He wasn't like, Man United wanted him, other big clubs wanted him. On March 29th of March 2013, documents suggest the BVI-based Leaston Holdings, owned by Abramovich, agreed to pay 7 million euros to a Dubai-based company called Gulf Value. The contract was signed on the company's behalf. Basically, this is going to be an Eden Hazard-related agent thing, isn't it? The files also reveal that 7 million euros in payments between 2005 and 17 to companies like Zoran and Vladika Lemic, the latter a key advisor to Abramovich, who reportedly was a pivotal figure in the arrival of such stars as Iron Robin, Branislav Ivanovic, Nemanja Matic, and the double-winning coach Carlo Ancelotti. Separate documents show a $250,000 payment to former Chelsea sporting director Frank Arnesen. Arnesen told The Guardian he would usually have expected the payment, a discretionary bonus, to have come from Chelsea rather than another company, but was unaware of any rule breaches. True. 4 leading sports lawyers told The Guardian that some of the payments may have broken rules regarding the Premier League and UEFA regulations on FFP. Well, they said UEFA are sort of hands are tied now, and they've also accepted a fine, or an agreement for Chelsea to pay a fine. FFP was introduced by UEFA at the start of the 11-12 season, with similar restrictions adopted 2 years later by the Premier League. Interesting. The measures are partly aimed at preventing reckless spending that might put the future of clubs at risk. Yeah, FFP is to stop clubs from going like bankrupt. You know, that essentially don't spend more than you earn, so you can pay players, so you don't ruin, you know, a community's club, all that kind of stuff. But also, so it's not so much to make the league fair, because there's always, if you earn a lot of money, you're allowed to spend a lot of money. Like Manchester United earn so much money, so they can spend it. And you know, you could say it's unfair in the league because they can just buy loads of players and spend it, but you know that they wouldn't be breaching FFP, even though they have lately. But it's more complicated than that. Yes, but the rules have been adapted in response to a trend of wealthy benefactors, of course, including Abramovich and nation states such as Qatar, United Arab Emirates, pouring cash into their clubs to buy success, a practice dubbed financial doping by former Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger, which is true, you can't, you know, get around that. Also now there's like a geopolitical thing of sports washing with, you know, Qatar and, you know, Saudi buying Newcastle and stuff like that. Samuel Cuthbert, a sports barrister, said this, quote, "If a club were to hide outgoings," so that's what they're suggesting Chelsea are doing, "by paying those sums into other entities, it is conceivable they'd be in breach of FFP. You would effectively be circumventing your regulatory requirements, which limit your ability to spend." Basically, you are being naughty, you're spending money for the benefit of Chelsea, and this is breaching financial fair play. Any opportunity to gain an unfair advantage skews the competition in favour of a particular club and undermines the integrity of football on a fundamental level. 3 other lawyers who were asked not to be named due to potential conflicts of interest. It's also shady. They also said some of the transactions may have broken the Premier League rules that require the submission of accurate accounts, another provision demanding that the clubs act in good faith, the FA's rules requiring disclosure of the payments to agents. But come on, that's dodged all the friggin' time. Football finance expert Kieran Maguire said Chelsea's huge spending meant the club had habitually flirted with the limits on hard financial losses. He said this, quote, "If there's proof that the club has used third-party transactions to circumvent the profitability and sustainability rules, then sanctions would either be financial or a points deduction." And there's that line. "The latter is more likely, as any commission investigating the club's circumstances would want to put a deterrent that dissuades others from such behaviour." As in, like, clubs don't mind paying fines. You know, they like, especially with some FFP, with like PSG and stuff, they break FFP, UEFA say, "Oh, naughty, you've broken FFP, pay a fine," and they go, "Okay." With their like unlimited money, here's a fine. But as soon as you start saying points deduction, that's when people start getting twitchy. Yeah, it goes on and talks about like Willian and Eto'o and those kind of deals there. We'll leave that for the moment. Right, how do I feel about this? Well, if you said to me, Jan, over the, 18 years Roman Abramovich owned Chelsea, there was some dodgy payments made, I'd go, probably. You know, like, what do you want me to say? Like, you got to be lucid and, like, you know, like, it turns out he was, like, funding Vitesse. An article came out recently that, you know, again, that's probably too far removed from Chelsea. I know Chelsea loaned players, but Chelsea didn't own Vitesse, you know, outright. He was just, like, giving them money to, like, run so they could look after our players almost. But, like, so what are we seeing here? Agents' fees. Antonio Conte, Carlo Ancelotti, Eden Hazard. There was stuff with Willian and Neto. Like, that's not as shocking as I suppose certain things could be. There's so many payments to agents that big clubs try and do. Well, not even big clubs, just European clubs do all the time. I know the regulatory bodies are trying to crack down now, and even things with like social media availability and people's lucidity to stuff, and even like the FA, you know, documentaries coming out on Netflix about how crooked they are. People are just becoming more and more aware, and the sobering, you know, realities of how crooked football is. It is interesting, and of course with Chelsea being sold, the new ownership, the transitions, them self-reporting irregularities in the books, it's just, look, put everything on the table here, and the more on the table, the more investigative journalists get close, and we have stories like this. Do we think there will be a points deduction? I don't know. I think if Roman Abramovich was, I mean, this is very speculative from me, but I feel like it would be more inclined if Roman Abramovich was still in power at Chelsea, you know, still running. But the fact how it's a new ownership, they've self-reported irregularities, they've paid fines, they've tried to be very, very transparent of spending and how they're structuring their finances to abide by the rules. Of course, UEFA didn't like how they were amortizing the contracts over 8 years, but they were, you know, that wasn't like cheating. That was like publicly making a decision that they were allowed to do. Like Simon Jordan said on TalkSport, like, it's nonsense. Like, UEFA have since changed the rules, which is up to them, is within their right in response to this. But Jordan on TalkSport said it was ridiculous. There's a rule there. They've made a decision to work within a rule that gives, you know, that Chelsea are taking a risk themselves by doing so. But people don't like, you know, it's still a creative way of utilising the current structure of the rules. So maybe they don't like Chelsea because the new owners, because they did that. I don't know. I think the fact how they've self-reported to UEFA, they've paid the fine, they've done it to the Premier League. It's not them that's done it. You know, Chelsea are an important economic company in the United Kingdom. In the Premier League, Chelsea have already suffered massively when the government imposed sanctions on the club, like huge financial losses. You know, affected communities and families and stuff of Chelsea. And this is, you know, it's Chelsea, Southwest London, culturally, you know, there's a lot of money around there. I just don't know. I just don't feel like it'd be in their interest to... If Chelsea were like Man City, maybe they'd go, yeah, have a freaking 10 points deduction and still win the league. But maybe because Chelsea is still so struggling, I don't know whether that's a sentiment that would be involved. I mean, speaking of Manchester City, was there 115 charges still hanging over them from the Premier League that's yet to be resolved? So, interesting. We will, of course, keep on top of this story as and when there's developments. I mean, hopefully, as a Chelsea fan... And as a football, actually, have it right. Football fans that aren't Chelsea fans would be like, down with Chelsea. You know, we'd be the same with Man City. It's just how football fandom works. Hopefully not for everyone involved of the blue, you know, persuasion that there's nothing that comes from this. Hopefully the owners still keep being really, really honest and transparent, and that serves them well in this, you know, situation they're trying to navigate from the previous ownership. Let me know your thoughts, comment down below. Thank you for joining me. Keep it locked to Football Therapy. I will react to all stories and developments as and when they come, and do, you know, player analysis, stats, and news and transfers and all the fun stuff here on Football Therapy. So I look forward to seeing you back here very soon. Peace.